particularly based on the timing, let's say, of several years. Say you're a specialized transport company or someone else in the supply chain who does not have prior experience with offshore wind. What in the U.S., let's say, what advice would you have for an established company to be able to transition and participate in this new sector?
Yeah, so I guess the way I look at the sector is that the port to me is kind of the switchboard where land meets the water. And if we're talking about offshore wind, we do have a lot of activity that happens offshore away from the port. So the first things that happen is that the sites offshore are surveyed. We try to find out what kind of weather there is out there in terms of waves and wind conditions. And the ports need to be set up earlier along with the supply chain. So today in the Americas, for example, in Brazil, in Canada, in the US, we do have a manufacturing footprint for onshore turbines. So we can produce blades, we can produce nacelles, we can produce towers, and we kind of produce it in the areas that have the right cost base. And when we talk about offshore wind, the machines are much, much bigger, and we don't have that supply chain today in the Americas. So we need a new supply chain to construct the turbines. We also need a new supply chain to construct everything around the turbines. So the foundations we put the turbines on in the water, the cables, and also the substations that need to boost the electricity back into shore. And to support all of that manufacturing, we kind of need to start to figure out where's that gonna be located. And every governor of every state in the U.S. East Coast cannot get his or her own factory. The economies are just not there to construct, for example, 9 nacelle factories or 9 blade factories. Some kind of volume is required, and the local job creation that is kind of wished for in exchange for the taxpayer money that we pour into producing wind offshore or producing wind power offshore is not going to be a one-to-one for each state. So somehow the states need to kind of come to terms with which states are going to get what kinds of factories. And that really will set up logistical chains kind of inbound to the manufacturing sites. And then in terms of manufacturing and assembly of these very, very large components, we're talking about nacelles weighing in excess of 500 tons that need to go 170 meters or more up in the air, which is 500-600 feet. And we talk about wind turbine blades that measure about 325 feet in length, each of them. And we have 3 of those that we kind of put up on top. So we have something on top of the tower that weighs easily 700-800 tons, and it's sitting, kind of very high up, and we need some very big cranes and handling equipment. So to transport all of that into port areas, to assemble this, get vessels in that have very ugly and tall legs, more than, again, 350 feet tall legs that look like kind of oil rigs that got off to the wrong turn or something, and trying to move them, underneath power lines and, past airports and into port areas. And yeah, it's a complex logistical challenge on the East Coast, and not many ports are capable of doing this. So my advice, whether you are kind of a land-based company, whether you are a port or terminal-based operator, or whether you are a maritime offshore company with considerations like you do have Jones Act, you do have tug and barge, cabotage rules. So there's lots of opportunity to get into this. But how the supply chain is going to be configured is really going to be critical, I think, in terms of where and who can set up and do what. And then I think the customers are going to be either the grid companies, the large engineering, procurement, and construction companies,